JoBlo.com. I'm serious.
First of all, congratulations. You guys have managed to keep it a secret for a while. Let's talk. I want to first address some of the many rumors I heard, just because people knew I had seen it, that it wasn't a sequel originally. That was actually a remake, but they wanted to change it into a sequel. That it was another movie entirely, and they turned it into Blair Witch. Let's talk about the truth.
Yeah, it was definitely never.
It's good to clear that up, because this isn't one of those like 10 Cloverfield Lanes where it's a posthumous, like switch over. It's like this was always 100% conceived as a Blair Witch film, and as a matter of fact, The Woods was just our working title, and it really wasn't until the process started that we kind of realized that we were going to take this method of it. But The Woods was really smokescreen from the get-go, and I mean, and if you see the film, you can see that there's no way you could just kind of paste on the Blair Witch to it, because it's the whole plot of the movie.
Yeah,
and
it's literally the plot of the film, and yeah, it was always conceived. And I think there's some confusion, because I think there was talk of doing a third Blair Witch film back in 1999, 2000 or so, and that didn't happen, obviously, and now 2016 suddenly here's Blair Witch. But we came on board in early 2013, before Your Next had come out, right before went off to do The Guest together. And yeah, I mean, it was like Lionsgate basically set us down at this top secret meeting, and we're like we have the rights to the Blair Witch Project. Like, how would you guys feel? And we're like, oh yeah, and that's how it was conceived. But it was it was their idea, and we were very much down with this, because we've done this with some of our previous films, that it would be kind of a secret, that the whole thing would be shrouded in secrecy a little bit, and we'd be trying to do a kind of new and innovative marketing thing with it, just like they did with the first film back in 1999. And so so that was kind of part of the original plan from the get-go. So we kept it a secret for 3.5 years.
How the hell do you keep that a secret? How do you not tell people? How do you get people to shut up about it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like for us, it became one of those things where we just conditioned ourselves to never really saying the name Blair Witch out loud, even when we were shooting the movie, unless the actors were. Like we always called, if we were going to refer to the Blair Witch on set, we called it the B-dubs. That was our nickname for it. Like the script itself, like most of only the cast and like some department heads had actual pages. The other ones had fake. Like anytime it would say Blair Witch or Heather or anything, like it was those words were changed around. So like for us, it was more like we just became so conditioned to never saying the words Blair Witch that now it's actually just weird even saying it out loud. It's almost like, it's almost surreal, and I still like find myself being like, wait, can I really do this? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it was one of those things where like, I honestly don't know how it stayed secret this long, because I think within the industry, a lot of people had figured it out. Like I know I'd taken a lot of general meetings and stuff, and, there's a lot of executives who was on their radar and they'd found out one way or another. And, but I think just in the general public, well, the funny thing is it did leak out early on, but just nobody believed it. Like, Brad Miska on Bloody Disgusting somehow caught wind of it. Thanks a lot, Brad. And he did this article about that we were secretly making a Blair Witch film, and everybody's immediate response to it was like, "You're full of shit, Brad." Like, and it's hilarious because we were like making the movie at the time, and we were looking at that article because at first we were like, "Oh my god, this is damage control time," because like we have to figure out what to do, like how to deny this, and the answer soon became clear on how to handle it, which is like, just don't pay any attention to it because nobody believes Brad anyways, which was kind of funny.
We're just kind of naturally cagey, and we just didn't talk about it. And there was a safe draft of the script. The actors, when they auditioned, read like fake pages that were created for that. So there were like a lot of things we were doing to keep it a secret. And even at Lionsgate, a lot of people at Lionsgate didn't know what the film was. Because we were making a film, and I think just a couple executives there, were in charge of it, and they just kept it a secret from everyone at the studio what we were doing.
You talk about like conspiracy theories and stuff, like the JFK assassination, for instance. It's like, well, if somebody really did assassinate JFK, if there was a conspiracy of a couple gunmen, like why hasn't it gotten out by now? And it's like, Well, it probably did get out, but it's just lost in all the other conspiracies. So, like, who knows what's real? So, like, and I think that's kind of what happened with us, like, not to, compare us to, an assassination of a president of the United States, it's like, but it's the same thing. It's like, the secret was out. Just nobody actually picked up on it, and it was right under everybody's nose. And we just never, even, like, if any, like, tons of people on Twitter would ask me all the time because there was rumors about it. It was never more than a rumor, though, and the rumors probably started with the Bloody Disgusting article about it. And our methodology of that was anytime anybody tweets at you and asks you about Blair Witch, you just ignore the tweet because there's no way to get around that. If you just even denying it isn't a good approach. It's just like ignore.
We try to be somewhat honest to our fans and stuff, so it was just better to avoid it. But I think we also made the choice early on that we were fine with rumors. We're fine with rumors. We're fine with people talking about it. Like any kind of conjecture, that's fine. As long as people don't know and are like, I think it's the new Blair Witch, that's great. That's great. They're talking about it, and that'll get them hyped to see it. But, just as long as they didn't know for certain until now, the surprise would still be fun.
You're selling this film constantly as something that it's not. Yeah. And that must be a whole other issue.
Yeah, we really hate the title The Woods now. We kind of did.
Always did. Well, no, so much of the first film, its success and just its kind of legacy is based around the brilliant marketing campaign. And in that one, it was all about like making people think that the actors really were killed, basically, lost in the woods. And it worked, and it was a fantastic success, and even though you can't do that same thing again, I think part of the fun of the Blair Witch is the fact that you have to continue that clever marketing legacy and find a way to evolve it. And I think that Tim Palin at Lionsgate did a really fantastic job. Unveiling this thing and just the right timing and everything, and because it really does seem like it's piqued people's interest in just the right way. Whereas I think if we just come out and we had said from the get-go, hey, we're making a Blair Witch film, I think there would have been a backlash against it, Mm-hmm. But I think because we were able to come up and say, hey, this is the woods, doesn't this look cool? And everybody's like, this is interesting, this kind of Blair Witchy looking movie these guys did, and then whenever you turn around and say, oh, actually it's Blair Witch, suddenly it's like a fun thing. It's like a fun discovery, and it's exciting to kind of like think back at the Woods trailer and think, did I ever suspect that? It makes it this kind of experience, that I've never really seen. Cloverfield, the sequel is the closest thing, but it's different, really. Because they announced it as Cloverfield. It was more just, it was a secret that it even existed, Whereas ours, we actually, we were right there and we said, oh, by the way, the thing that you've been looking at, it's completely something else. And that is something that's never been done. And it's very exciting. And it's more exciting that it's actually paying off, and that, because I was afraid, like, is there going to be a backlash? Is it going to be like you switch it out and then, people are kind of ticked off or something? Yeah. But I think like everybody's taken it in the way that we hope they would, which is it just adds to the fun of the whole situation.
How many studios would be willing to take a chance on something so weird as what they did? But I think it's clearly paying off already because people are so excited about it. And you'll notice like the posters always said there's something hiding in the woods. They never would just say the woods because they were like, there's something hiding in the woods. Blair Witch. It's like we answered your question. Yeah. So they kind of were like having, and they just love to work outside the box like that. And it was a really kind of just a perfect combination of like us being like, we are very down for this if you guys are down to also do this. Like, we'll keep the secret, but you guys have to like do some really outside of the box cool marketing. And they're like, we gotcha.
There's something about the way you mix genres, and you but this one is a little more straightforward. Was there any ever thought to go in, let's make it crazy, or
no, as a matter of fact, it was exactly opposite of that. When we first started this thing, well, actually what's funny is that we are like you said, like we are kind of known as, horror filmmakers by and large, but we're known as like horror filmmakers that kind of do these kind of offbeat meta comedy versions of horror that break down the kind of tropes and everything. And, and so to a certain degree, we've never made a horror movie before, I think, at least in the pure sense of it. But we'd been talking about doing one, we were like, we got to do just something just like straight up horror. are something that's just like a mainstream, kind of thing, and because we need to get into that world, and frankly, we needed that kind of success, and it remains to be seen how successful this is going to be, but I think at the very least, it's a success as a movie.
We both love films that don't just like startle you in the theater, but like scare you weeks or months afterwards when you think about them. And I just hadn't really, I felt, been capable of writing one. But after doing, Your Next and The Guest and the VHS films, I really wanted to. And it was kind of during a weird period of trying to figure out what our next project was going to be. And we kind of knew we wanted it to be like a really, truly disturbing horror film that Lionsgate sat down with us. And they're like, hey, how do you feel about Blair Witch? And I was like, oh, problem solved. Like, I don't have to come up with a innovative way to make a haunted house movie now. Like, great, done and done.
The fact that you guys are taking on Blair Witch, you're doing I Saw the Devil. Is there something appealing to you about taking? Because obviously remakes do get a bad rap, but there are clearly good ones out there. What is it for you? The appeal to take on a project like that?
Well, for me, with Blair Witch and also with I Saw the Devil, part of kind of what's creatively exciting about both those things is that we're doing something very different than what's, than what the first film did. And in both cases, in very different ways. And I don't want to, spoil anything about what our plans are for I Saw the Devil, so I won't really speak to that. But, I would never just want to remake like a great film, because it's just like, well, it's been done and it's there. It's just not creatively exciting to me. At the same time, I think there are kind of cool ways and cool new directions that you can like take a story in. There's ways that you can update a story and cast it in a different like place or time, etc. That are rewarding and creatively interesting. So, I don't think remakes are inherently wrong.
My favorite remake of the last few years is still probably the Ring remake, and that's totally like Gore Verbinski just like going nuts on his own style on that film, and, it's one of those things where, like if a lot of the remakes that fail is because they don't have their own style to them. The filmmakers don't have their own personality that they're trying to ingrain in it. It's just kind of like, well, let's make a cooler looking version of an original film. That's what happened with like Friday the 13th and, that kind of stuff, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's just like, well, let's make a slick looking version of it, but it doesn't have a personality in unto itself. And, I think that's like the main key for us is like, we want to bring something to it, of our own. And, fortunately, this film is not a remake. It's much more of a sequel, but just the fact that it is a sequel that takes place 20 years later, the question of how is this relevant is very simple. It's like technology is constantly changing, and when you're dealing with a movie that's all about technology and the stuff people are using to film, there's a lot more tools out there that are available to the characters to use, and that's what's exciting about it, is that now it's like saying like, well, like what happens if somebody goes in the woods, the Black Hills Forest, in 2014, I think is when it's set, and like what happens when that, like what would they take out there, and that's the kind of questions we're answering.
When you make a film like Your Next, or even the VHS films, in the capacity that we worked on those, you get offered like a lot of horror remakes. Yeah. Like after Your Next came out, or even after it premiered, Adam and I got offered so many horror remakes, some of which have actually been made and come out, some of which will never be made or never come out, and that's for the best. And this was the first thing that we ever said yes to that wasn't original. We then subsequently did say yes to I Saw the Devil, and that's in the pipeline, and maybe we'll do other things, and and Adam's doing Death Note, which is an adaptation, of course, as well. Yeah. But like so subsequently there were other things that kind of creatively appealed to us, but that was the first one, because initially we got offered a lot of home invasion type things and found footage type things that we just weren't interesting and exciting, and there wasn't any new places to take that story. But Blair Witch has such a rich mythology, and there's so much cool stuff, and I think like, JoBlo fans kind of in particular know like how many of these remakes have come out in the last like 5 years. And, and this was the first one that we were like, what, like it's time to say yes. But not because, our rent is due, but because like this is a story that we are the right people to tell.